So this video is going to be teaching you interactively how to write a paragraph analyzing figurative language. So you need to get up a doc and follow along with me. So please pause the video while you get a doc ready. Okay, now you've unpaused. So what your job is going to be in writing this paragraph is to be analyzing, explaining, hypothesizing. Your job is not to simply point out some figurative language. It is not to simply list figurative language. It is to think deeply. So, your first step is to find an example of figurative language. If you filled out those papers, you already have a lot of examples, but make sure that it is effective, okay? Remember that John Green video we watched, what makes something effective? That's totally your opinion. It's up to you. It'll be effective if it helped you understand the plot or the characters or the theme or the setting or any of those things more. Make sure you know the page number and who said it, a narrator or the character. So I have mine already picked out here. Parvana's father said this, and I have the page. That is my quote. My example of figurative language. It is a simile. So pause the video while you go find yours. So now that you've unpaused and you have found your example of figurative language, your next step is going to be writing the topic sentence for your paragraph. In the topic sentence, you have to think of what the main idea of your paragraph is going to be about. What are you going to be talking about in this paragraph? Your figurative language. You need to make sure you say the chapter number. You're going to also include the type of figurative language that your specific quote is and the point of the figurative language. This is where you're hypothesizing. What did it make more effective? Why do you think the author included it? So let me write my topic sentence here. So I'm going to say that in chapter 1, a simile was used to make the reader better understand how many people there are from Afghanistan. So you see I have what the type of figurative language, I have the chapter, and I have what it made more effective. So pause the video right now, pause the video, and go do that in your doc. Okay, so now you have written your topic sentence. Let's move on. The next step is to introduce the quote. You can't just throw a quote in there. You have to introduce it. I have all these different things that you can use to introduce it. You might say, depending on who said it. So if my quote was said by Parvana's father, so I would say, for example, Parvana's father states, or as shown when Parvana's father tells Parvana, I wouldn't say does. An example of Parvana's father's wisdom is, the setting of really wouldn't work in this case. Or the reader is engaged when Parvana's father states. Okay, those are all the different ones that I could use. So this is how I'm going to introduce my quote. I'm going to say the reader is engaged when Parvana's father states. Instead of states, I'm going to say points out. Now, you introduce, then you have a comma. So I'm going to put comma, space. Then you have quotation marks. So I'm going to put quotation marks. Then you have your quote. Don't want that twice. Okay. Then you have quotation mark. Then you have a comma. Then you have quotation marks again. Then you have a space. Then you have a parenthesis. Parenthesis. The page number, parenthesis, period. Okay? Introduce, comma, quotation marks, quote, 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 comma, quotation marks, parenthesis, page number, parenthesis, period. So pause while you do that in your doc. Okay, so now that you've done step 3, we are on to step 4. That is where you are paraphrasing the quote. So paraphrasing is when you're going to put the quote in your own words. So my quote, remember, was, Afghans cover the earth like stars cover the sky. That was figurative language, right? So now you're going to put your quote in literal language. So I can pick any of these sentence starters up here. I could say even, here's another sentence starter I can add in here. This quote literally means, that's another sentence starter you could use. But I'm going to use this one. In saying this, Parvana's father shows that the Afghan people are numerous, proud, and strong. He says that he gets this meaning across by comparing the Afghan people to stars. See how I'm paraphrasing what the quote said in my own words. This is not how Parvana's father talks. This is how Miss H talks. That is what you do in step 4. So pause the video and go do that in your doc. Step 4. Okay, now you're back after doing step 4. So step 5 is explaining the quote. This is when you're thinking on a really deep level. Okay, this is when you are explaining why you think the author chose to use figurative language. Why was it effective for you? What did it make more effective? Okay, so all these lines, that would be the type of figurative language, right? Like mine's a simile, so I'd say this simile explains that. Or this is an effective example of simile because, or what this simile adds to the text is, or this simile effectively shows how proud the Afghan people are, okay? I'm going to use one of those sentence starters. So I'm going to use, this is an effective example of a simile because it compares, well, actually, I'm going to change that. You want to think about why this was effective for you. If it was said literally, if Parvana's father had simply said there are a lot of Afghan people, he could have said that. But why did they use the figurative language? This is where you really have to think. So this is an effective example of a simile because it beautifully shows just how many proud Afghan people there have been through time. Comparing the people of Afghanistan to the stars gives them a feeling of light, eternity, right? Because stars don't go out, and beauty, right? We all like stars. Okay, so you see how I said why that was effective? Why it was more effective? Why? That's the big part of step 5. So pause the video and go do step 5. Okay, now you're back. So step 6 here, you're going to restate your topic sentence, but in a new way. What was the type of figurative language and what made it so effective? So I'm going to say the simile was effective in this chapter to help the reader understand the awesomeness of the Afghan people. So stop the video and go do that in your doc. And that is how you analyze figurative language.